What's having issues with the Kenmore Elite. This is the HE5. If it's that F01. So I went ahead and took the lid off here. I'm going to go ahead and take a picture of the motherboard, the casing, and the wires so that we can kind of follow along and hopefully find out, get this fixed. I got my wrist covered just so that I don't accidentally mess up the motherboard due to static. Okay, so I went ahead and removed these two screws. There's one here and one right there, and that's so that way I can actually gain access to this panel and take a better look at this motherboard, and then probably take this lid off next. So I went ahead and unplugged all of these. I took a picture of it just before I unplugged them. They all pretty much just come right out. So you do have to use a little bit of finger force. But if you brace this part here and pull at the same time, it should come out, somewhat. I think this one was probably the hardest one. I went ahead and labeled it with a piece of blue tape just so I know which is the top and which is the bottom. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and remove this next and take a look. So as you can see, the only two that I have left to pull out are these two. And I'm going to go ahead and pull them out in that direction, and the direction that this wire is coming from. Hopefully that will loosen them up. So one more side note. So that's what we're going to take off next. But what I realize is under here, there's this little clip. That little clip right there that won't let it slide out. So it kind of stops it from sliding out. So you got to push it in to actually remove the motherboard from the housing from this the housing unit from this actual holder. As I said, once I got that clip out, the motherboard came right out, and as you can see, we still have these two pieces attached here on the side, which we're going to go ahead and pull those out next so we can check out the motherboard. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and remove the actual circuit board, the motherboard, from the plastic housing. And the way we're going to accomplish that is by taking a small flathead screwdriver, and we're going to use these small little pins right here. There's a lot of dust in here. I got to blow this out, but if you can see, these little plastic pins are holding this motherboard in place so it doesn't move. But we're going to go ahead and press those in. You can see the back side of that pin, and it should pop right out, and we'll take a look. So I like using this dust off brand. These blowers, I've been using them for years, and we should be able to get all that dust off of there. So I just wanted to make a quick note. What I started doing is I started prying these tabs off the corners. So if you can kind of see these little tabs. So I started on one side and I got three up. You just got to push them in and carefully lift the circuit board up, being real careful. So I'm going to do one side and then I'm going to do the opposite side, though you can see those are still in there. But we'll get it out. Now that all the pins have been carefully removed, I'm going to go ahead and you can see I grounded myself to my wrist as well here. I'm going to go ahead and remove this now. It should just come out right real nicely. And we should look at this motherboard. Take a look to see what we got. So as I remove this, we'll take a look. And wow, lo and behold, look at that. So that you can see where those issues are coming from. And it's that particular connection there just completely burnt out. So we'll have to go ahead and get that resolved and clean this motherboard up a little bit. Everything else appears to be good. It's just that one area, as you can see, just completely burnt out, and that's that one right there. So we're gonna get this one cleaned up and resolder it. So one of the neat tools I got is this nice little circuit board holder. I got this from a store, an online store, and it basically shows the circuit board holder, and it should help me brace it in there so I can work on this. So one of the nice features of this holder, again, is that once you get it clamped on, you can see you can spin it in a 360 degrees, so you can actually see the entire motherboard and work on it. It's not a heavy-duty clamping, system here. It is somewhat aluminum and some plastic with some springs, but it has a nice little weight and it keeps it on there pretty steadily so I can work on this. So next I'm going to go ahead and clean up the housing with some isopropyl alcohol just to get it cleaned up. So it's not perfect, but it looks a lot better. Next we're going to go ahead and take care of this little problem. I'll use maybe some sandpaper to clean some of that carbon burn out there, and also we'll use a couple tools to begin removing that solder plug there that's just sitting there, that's all burnt up. And we can use one of these, which is kind of a neat little tool that I also got, and that should help us basically pull it out. So we'll take a look. So what I'm going to use is a little bit of the isopropyl alcohol I used to clean the housing with, some Q-tips, and some very fine sandpaper. This is the wet and dry. So it's a 1200 grit, and it should do pretty good cleaning this mess up. So you can see the alcohol and the sandpaper did a pretty good job cleaning that up. Now we're going to go ahead and use a wire. We're going to go ahead and cut this wire and fit it so that we can go ahead and bridge the connection and help give it power. Now I have this this wire that my little kit came with. It's very thin, and you can see there's very little copper in there. Very thin, but I also happen to have this nice piece of thick wire. It's a 14 gauge wire, and it will do quite nicely because I'm going to use this to bridge so we can get that connection. But it's basically a electrical wire, just a wire that I had from another wiring job that I had done in the past, some extra wire, but it should work nicely to bridge. So I went ahead and used my little tool and began making my bridge, which should fit right in there and make those two connections connect again. So I got my soldering iron. I'm going to go ahead and increase the heat, get it nice and hot, probably about 350 degrees I think should do it. I'm going to go ahead and aim to try to get rid of that burnt solder there and clean it up so I can get a nice clean connection between my jumper wire, which I went ahead and cut and measured pretty good, and it will sit somewhere like that, connecting these two here. So those are the two, that's the jumper we're gonna do. So as you can see, I changed it to Fahrenheit from Celsius, and we are at about 658, so this thing should be ready to. Well, it is now finished. I have soldered it. It is not the prettiest solder, but I tried to make sure that they were all soldered together and it made a good connection. So we'll check it out, test it, and see if it works. All right, so now I got it soldered on there. I mounted it back on there. I'm gonna go ahead and place this back, this cover back on, so that we can go ahead and put it back into place. You can pause it. All right, so we got it all in place. We plugged it back in. Now we're gonna go ahead and give it a test run and see if it works. Right, so if it works. Nope, no power. No power. So I got it connected, and we're going to see if it works. It's a good sign. It works. Did it.